as you were studying how the ancient world understood heaven and hell and how those ideas evolved, and then you're looking at the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, can you talk about some of the similarities you've seen from these ancient ideas being incorporated into these biblical texts?
It's a complicated story, and it's pretty much what my book for a general audience. It's Heaven and Hell: A History of the Afterlife. Uh, that's I actually sketched that whole relationship between the biblical views and non biblical views. Um, the Bible is pretty interesting because the Old Testament, virtually the entire Old Testament, teaches that when a person dies, that's the end of the story. There's no afterlife. You don't go somewhere, and it's because in Jewish thinking, traditional Jewish thinking did not understand that you have a soul within you that can be separated from your body. The body dies, but the
Mm.
soul lives on. That's a view that developed principally in our culture in Greek settings, in Greek philosophical circles. In Greek, that's what pagans thought, but Jews thought that the body and the soul were an integrated whole, and they can't exist independently of one another. And so it's not just that your body dies; your spirit doesn't do any; it goes away too. And so the way to think of it is that ancient Hebrews thought about your spirit or your soul as your breath. The same word in many of these ancient languages, Hebrew and Greek. Breath and spirit are the same word. And the idea is that when God created Adam, right, Adam and Eve, he creates Adam in Genesis chapter 2. He just makes this lump of dirt on the ground. It's in a human shape, but it's just a lump of dirt. But he breathes into it. When he breathes into it, it becomes a living being. And so if we think about it like that, that a human is the integration of spirit and body, then it makes sense. Because when you stop breathing, you don't think your breath goes anywhere. You just stop breathing. You're dead now. And that's what ancient Hebrews thought. You died and your soul, and so your soul didn't exist. It just, it's like it's your breath. It went away. What ended up happening is that in Jewish circles, they started thinking that there's got to be something more than this, than this life, because you get people who are really righteous and God-fearing people who die. They have a crummy life, horrible life. They die, and that's the end of the story. Doesn't God help them out when they're dead? And you have these schmucks over here who are rich and famous and powerful, and they die and they get away with it. Like, that can't be right. And so Jews ended up developing this idea that there is a life after death. But since they were Jews and thought that the body and soul were an integrated whole, the way a person has an afterlife is when the soul comes back into the body at the end of time, and there's a resurrection of the dead. The dead are brought back to life, their body, and they live forever in their bodies then. And so there were Jews who came to think that at the end of time, there'd be a judgment day, and everybody would be raised up, and the sinners would be destroyed, and the righteous would be given eternal life here on earth, paradise here on earth. And so that's what Jesus thought, and that's what Paul thought. And then later Christians, later Christians who were not raised in Jewish circles, but mainly came from Gentile circles, had Greek philosophical ideas in mind, from like Plato and things like that, where the body and the soul separate, and the soul lives forever, the body dies. They brought that into Christianity, and they combined it with Jesus' teaching of the resurrection of the dead, and they came up with the idea of heaven. That you die and your soul goes to heaven and to be rewarded. So it's a combination of Plato and Jesus, oddly enough.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video clip from the Delgado Podcast. To get more videos just like this, simply subscribe here on YouTube. Take care.